Hey guys,
What is up?
Yo, yo.
welcome back, both of you, and welcome back to the United States of America from overseas. That's about as far away as you can get.
I think so.
And you guys are in.
No, it's actually the short distance because I just talked to somebody that over with layovers went 48 hours getting to Australia.
Ooh.
And there's some long flights on that, like 18 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would.
No thanks. How long was you? Okay, people don't know what we're talking about. You guys were in Africa recently. Check the garb.
Check out the guy.
Check out the garb. And how long of a flight was that?
Well, so we were Syracuse to JFK, and then JFK to Accra. There we go. It's been a while since I've said it. So that is on the southeastern coast of Africa, the country of Ghana. And going over was 9.5 hours, apparently a good tailwind. Coming back was another hour
Extra
coming into the wind.
So right from JFK to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Didn't even know they did
Yep.
that. Nice.
And that was, so the town that we went to was Atebubu, and we had to fly from Accra to, say the name, come up,
Which one? Kumasi?
Kumasi, and then from there it was a interesting drive for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually like the second part of the trip. Nobody talks about
Yeah.
once you're there.
Yeah.
Okay, so take me back to like, what was the inception of this trip? What was the mission?
Yeah, I'll share that. So we, Brian, one Sunday morning, he got up. For those of you who don't know, Brian is a pastor at Christian Community Center in Turin. And there's a missionary, his name is Peter, from Africa, and CCC assists with some missionary stuff and some support for him. So he came over and he ministered one Sunday. Fantastic. He's great. And then after that Sunday, Brian got up and just said, if anybody has, it on their heart to do a missions trip, we're going to go over there and go and serve the people of Ghana, go minister with Peter, and see me afterwards if you have any interest. And that was kind of the beginning of it. There wasn't a lot of information from the first inception of it, but I remember driving home from church that Sunday, getting right on the phone, calling Brian and saying, hey, pick me, please.
Yeah.
And you did the same thing, right?
I raised, I think he asked for, if there was anybody interested. I raised my hand right away because I had heard Peter speak at CCC probably at 3, maybe 4 times now. I don't remember, but I remember being just impressed with the level of ministry and how he, when he spoke, people responded in ways that were not normal,
right,
for what my experience was in that. And I remember wanting to, just get around him, and because we support him as a church there, and but also just to see up close him in action. And so, that I was definitely interested. And then, of course, the bonus was got to travel with Corwin and Ezra and Brian were traveling too, and got to be with them. And so it was a dad and lads trip, really.
That was
right.
fun.
The 4 of you, and I'm hoping to have them on sometime soon, kind of give their perspective of the trip. So you guys didn't talk necessarily together. You almost separately said.
Yeah, I didn't realize that you had raised your hand in church when he asked that. I just remember calling him afterwards, and then I think you called me a week later, or 2 weeks later, and said, hey, what are you thinking about this Africa trip? I was like, oh yeah, I'm going. You're like, good, me too.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, and then
So
I
didn't talk about
didn't
it.
realize that Ezra was planning on going until quite a bit after that.
Right.
And I was really thrilled that he was going. And
What a cool dynamic,
And,
because that's something that
awesome.
you get to experience with somebody very close to you. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sitting across from a father and son duo here. So
That's what's up.
yeah. So that's pretty interesting. I'm sure that
looks.
that same looks. Yeah. I'm sure that had different, another level of purpose and quality time, and experiencing something like that together is really cool.
Well, and when you get out of your environment and get to see people in a whole nother, environment compared to, what's normal is and watch them kind of rise to the surface and it's neat.
Yeah, you see a part of them you didn't see before.
Right.
That actually goes into a later question that I have, so don't jump ahead. Don't keep jumping ahead. Okay, so Peter is native, local in the area that you guys went to.
Yep.
Travels over here and speaks and is connected with CCC, and that's how you guys got involved.
And several other churches.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's kind of, he comes over pretty often then.
I would say
every couple years, I think, and he's got all over New York, and there's other places too. But he's got churches that he's connected with, and he had actually spent, I think, either 2 or 3 years here down below Utica at a Bible school that was going on down there, and so he has experience here, and he doesn't pastor a church, he pastors pastors. And has helped plant churches all over and in Ghana, and there's 2 other
Togo
and
Benin.
Yeah. 2 other countries there.
So this was specifically, you guys went to Ghana. That was okay.
Yep. Basically, if you found Ghana on the map, we spent our time in the middle of Ghana. We didn't travel real far, because travel is not what we have here. Not what we have here. The roads are difficult. We can cruise at whatever speed, we can get away with, and they cannot. They speed from one pothole to another.
Right.
And they go around them because they're big and they're deep.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's just, if you tried to go through them, you would,
break your axle.
In one trip, you'd be in big trouble.
Okay. So before we get to actually kind of boots on the ground situation, what was it in both of you spiritually that pulled you into this?
I love missions. I've been all over the world doing missions. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to El Salvador. I've been to Nicaragua. I've been to India. I've been to a couple other countries. And so for me, missions it's in my heart. From a very young age, we started when I was 11, and I went on a family missions trip supported by Rhema back in the day, and we went to Ukraine, and that started a love of missions for me, because I got to go over there and see just the differences in culture, the differences in vocations, the differences in how people live their life. And it was very fascinating to me to see how all over the world you have different differences, but Jesus is the same. Like, no matter where you go, you're delivering the gospel of the good news that Jesus came and died for each one of us. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, and it doesn't matter where you were born or how old you are, what age you are, or what your race is. You know what I mean? So for me, going and doing that at a very young age started this just love for travel. And it's also fun to see other parts of the world. You see other cultures that are interesting, and you get to taste food that's different and that kind of thing. So the spiritual side of it for me is something changes each time in my perspective. Something changes in my heart when I go to another country. And it reminds me of the blessings that God has given me living in the United States, where you can drive 70 miles an hour and you're not hitting potholes, or you don't have to boil water every time you want to have a drink, or you don't have to worry about drinking only bottled water because the water here is safe. Just so many different things, and perspective shifts for me caused me to continue to want to go back and serve other people who are less fortunate. And to share the gospel with people that they're not necessarily going to get that on a regular basis from a church where, anybody in any hometown, Watertown, Lowville, there's 50 churches between here and Watertown almost, so they could walk into any church and receive the gospel, which in some ways, there's a lot of churches over there as well, but from what we saw, there was a lot more taking advantage of people over there when it came to ministry. There was a lot of churches that were planted by people who didn't actually want to bring the gospel. They were looking to use people. But anyway, so getting back to spiritually for me, I hadn't gone on a missions trip since India 15 years ago. And when I started having kids, I laid down the desire of missions and that side of ministry for me, because I knew that my missions were at home with Hannah and with the kids.
Yep.
And my goal was to get them through the difficult stage, the baby stage, or whatever you want to call it. And this was a good opportunity, kind of the first opportunity really for a missions trip, since they're all old enough to take care of themselves and hang out with mom for a week and a half. So
that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
What is the quick question to follow up on that? A lot of people don't realize the impact that they have on their families, especially with young children and those very important years. Mm-hmm. And seeing that as a mission field, I think, is really important. It's probably one of the most important things you can do, especially in your immediate sphere.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times when people talk missions, it's like, well, you have to go abroad. You have to go to the less fortunate. You have to go and find people who are struggling. And it's like, the truth is there might not be more meaningful work you can do that's right within your purview.
Yeah, I think that's something that we talk about a lot, is your first ministry has to be to your family. And there's two different places in the Bible, Titus and Timothy, that both talk about the role of an elder and some of the qualifications of an elder. And it talks very specifically about being able to rule your own house well. And that doesn't mean ruling with an iron fist where you're beating your kids and your wife over the head with all these rules and regulations. It's leading them in the way that they should go. And that's something that's super near and dear to our hearts. That's something that Dad has taught us from a very young age. And we've seen it done wrong, and I didn't want to do it wrong. And so for anybody that's out there that has these ideas that, I need to go abroad to do ministry, if you got kids and a wife at home, that's where your ministry should be until there's some foundation laid, which now all of my kids are above the age. I think Sky just turned 8. My oldest is 13, Castle. And there's a foundation there of love and respect for their mother and for the Lord. And I know that me leaving for 12 days, they're going to be just fine. Hannah can handle it. And yeah, definitely important. Thoughts on that, Dad?
Yeah. So for me, my first missions trip, which was back in 1995, that was about adventure. Yeah. And yes, there was a spiritual part to that, but I like adventure. I like change. I like travel. And so to go on that, that I can say at the core of that was the adventure of it, and that's still very much there. But also to go where, because you're there as a visitor and you look different and you sound different, people will open their ears to hear you say the very same thing that their neighbor might say, but they'll not pay much attention to it because, well, that's just Joe from down the street, So when we would go to Ukraine, we used to, you would get out of you'd travel into a village. When you got out, just the fact that you were there, and immediately people knew, oh, okay, here's these people from another land, and somehow people would start coming out of their homes. And nobody was texting anybody,
just a magnetic draw.
It's just, I don't know, something about it. Cause I'd have a guitar and we'd start singing songs. And by the time you were done, you had 50, 60 people all around you. So, yeah, definitely, the beginnings of it for me. What you can accomplish in a short-term missions is so amazing, because you can come in, you can say things you wouldn't necessarily say here. You can say it in a manner you wouldn't necessarily say it here. There's a little bit more power in how you would deliver it. I don't know exactly how to describe that, but you have to go to taste it, I guess. But the other thing is, you guys you've both been on missions trips, right? And so you know what short-term missions is. When I grew up and I was your age, that phrase had not been formed. Didn't happen. Probably somewhere's probably in the 60s, 70s, that was beginning to happen. But even then, it was a little bit different. Where now it's like people are going on short-term missions trips all the time, yeah, it's a thing, and it's good. It's a good thing. We live in a day and age where it's not like when I was a kid. If you wanted to do missions, you sold all your goods, you said goodbye to your family, and maybe you'd see them again at the end of your days on the mission field. And you got on a ship, not a plane, and gone, And so where now you can do it and you can accomplish so much in a short period of time. Yeah. But it's definitely not... I hearing what Corwin was saying about the last time he went was 15 years ago, because he's growing his children up and getting that established, and the mission field in front of him. And it warms my heart to hear that, because that is, how I tried to portray being a father, and that there was a lot of things. When I had little kids, I laid down. I used to golf a lot. I laid that down. I a lot of different things. That was a season, but it's important. It's important. So, yeah.
Looking at your life through seasons is helpful, and being able to lay things down. It's very easy to have goals and want to get those goals completed, and not realize that some of that stuff's just not going to happen right now. And it's got to be okay with you, because if it's not, it's going to tear you apart.
Yeah.
And was that hard for either of you during that stretch? I
want to say one thing. If you change your perspective of what's valuable to you, then the work that you're doing at home with your children will become the thing that's important. You have to change that perspective, because if you look at life like, what can I do to accomplish the things that I want, versus what can I do to accomplish the things that the Lord has placed in front of me, which if you have children, the Lord has given you those kids to steward. You can see all throughout Scripture what it talks about parenting a lot. And you can see that if you have children, they are your mission. They are your ministry. And so you have to change your perspective to, I'm not a golfer anymore. I'm a father. I'm a foundation layer for another human being. If you don't want to be a foundation layer, don't have kids. And if you're not willing to make that sacrifice, ask the Lord to change your heart, because there's so much fruit in having kids. Anyway, okay. I had to say that.
That's a very important clarification segue.
Okay.
No, really good. It's true. Okay, so when you guys were flying over and you landed in Africa, first time in Africa for both of you?
Yep.
Okay. What was the first thing that kind of came to your mind when you're like, oh, I'm in Africa. I'm not in Kansas anymore, Dodo?
Actually, very interesting for me, because I've been other places, and going through customs, handing them your passport, and answering the questions, most of the time, even coming back into the U.S., they're very, very stern, very direct. It was not the case in Ghana. They asked questions, and you knew they were purposeful in their questions. They had a smile on their face, and they had a smile in their voice. And I said to our host, Peter, afterwards, I said, well, that was different. I said, asked what? I said, I feel very welcomed. He said, that's on purpose. He said, if those people didn't treat you well and make you feel welcome, that'd be their last day working. He said, because we want people coming, and it's important to us as a country, for you to come and be here, and obviously for lots of reasons, financial and whatever. But I found that was a culture shock for me. All the other things, I expected it to be impoverished. I knew that open sewers were a thing. I knew that the disregard for how the landscape looks with trash and that kind of thing. We land in a city. It wasn't too bad there, and there wasn't open sewers there. But as soon as you started moving away from the city, you start seeing more trash, and it quickly it was dark. So most of what we saw on that first 4.5 hours in the vehicle, was dark roads and no lines on the road, no road signs. It was
no infrastructure.
You just couldn't. Yeah, you really couldn't see it. That is the if you've never been to another country, when you realize that we like to complain about paying our taxes, but we also like to travel fast, with ease, and
safety.
Much information and safety. Even though, yes, things happen, we have a lot of stuff, and for the bang for our buck is pretty good. Pretty good. It's really amazing in comparison.
What other countries have you been to in this line kind of missionary?
So Ukraine, went 2-3 times to Ukraine, landed in Poland the one time and drove from Poland into Ukraine. And so that was an experience there. We learned what paying the bear meant. Bribery is a way of life there. So years ago, when in '86, we went. Actually, that was my first. When we went to Honduras and spent some time there. That was wife Delight, and also daughter Delight was 1 year old. So she's turning 40 come September, and so that was a long time ago. And let's see, what else have I done? Well, now I've done Africa. Always said I did not want to go to Africa. When I went to Ukraine the first time, I felt very at home, very comfortable, because where we spent our time was very rural, and I felt like I could move here and it's not the same ease that you have in the U.S., but I grew up on a farm. We killed animals and ate them. We grew our food, and that was how they were living. So I could do that. My wife, however, went to Haiti at the same time, and when she came back and told her story, I was like, "Thank you, Jesus! I went to Ukraine and Haiti." That was it. It was a rough trip for her.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Corwin, what was the? When did you realize that you were not at home anymore?
It's funny. I really don't get culture shock. Like, I think I've been to enough other countries where I really have no preconceived ideas of what's going to happen. This is kind of a funny story, and it'll be in my YouTube video. Little shameless plug there.
Yeah, we'll link that for sure.
Yeah, watch the video. But Ezra says to me, even in the video, I said, "Well, Ezra, I don't know if we're in Africa yet, because we just landed. You know, we are technically in the country, but I don't know if this is actually Africa, or if there's like this little segue between when you get out of the airport or when you land or whatever." He said, "This is Africa. If you murder somebody here, they will prosecute you." So I just laughed and said, "Yep, you're right, Ezra. We're in Africa." Yeah, that was hilarious.
One thing that we did experience, and having heard enough stories from other friends that have went, when you step out of the airport, you're an American, and everybody knows that just looking at you, and obviously we were white and they were dark skinned, but we could have been from wherever, but there was a lot of people wanting to do a lot of things for you, carry your bag, take you here, take you there, and because they want a tip. And so that I hadn't experienced that, because any other trip I'd been on was just, I was with other people. And so that was I was ready for it, and I knew that you just don't engage, and keep your eye on your host and do what they do, and let that, because they know how to talk to people and that kind of thing. But you just like no.
yeah. I've had that experience overseas before too. Same thing.
Yeah.
How far was the trip? You kind of alluded to that there was a bit of a drive after landing. How far was it?
Well, we actually had 2 flights.
Okay.
So three technically, because we flew from Syracuse to JFK.
Was that like 5-minute flight?
Literally like 30
Just
minutes.
as soon as you get to altitude,
Cup of coffee and half a cookie. You better put it down because we're landing.
It was like a minute and a half. Once he said, "Okay, we're flying. Okay, we're here in the air. We're gonna fly at this altitude." Then it was a minute later. "Okay, we're starting our descent down into New York City here."
Funny. Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, so then we had a very small layover there. Then we got on the flight. It was about 9.5 hours. Then we landed in Accra, and then we got right back on another plane and flew to Kumasi. And flying into Kumasi, then we left that city and went to Antebubu. And our drive was about 4.5 hours. What do you think the actual distance was? I think he said it was like 100 miles.
It was not far.
That's not by our standard. But when you talk about the road conditions and stuff like that, in my mind, I'm thinking 100 miles. Like that's pretty good distance.
Yeah, it was a decent distance for the amount of starting and stopping and swerving and slowing down and speeding up. Yep, a couple different checkpoints that we had to go through. The I don't know if we'll talk about this later, but the police really weren't bad there. There was a couple times we saw some exchanges of money, but from talking with a few different people, the people who were exchanging money were people who didn't have licenses or didn't have registrations on their vehicles or didn't have papers.
It's like a real-time tax.
Yep. Yeah, we had all that stuff, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, we had you referenced Haiti a minute ago, and we had Joanne Tanner on. Are you familiar with her work at all down there? She's the founder of Caring Hearts for Central Haiti.
Okay.
And she spoke a lot about similar issues with infrastructure and poverty, obviously, and just how hard it is to even travel within Haiti, and how certain areas are run by cartels and some areas you have to avoid, and how it makes it so difficult for just everyday transit. So I guess in my mind, when you said 100 miles, that's kind of where I went. I was like, oh man, that must have taken forever. But it wasn't that bad.
Well, 4.5 hours for 100 miles in United States standards, that's pretty terrible.
Right. I need to get out of my frame. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I would say we expected it to be a little bit shorter of a trip just based on what we were told. We were told like we'll be there in 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And it ended up being over 4.5 hours.
Oh.
So I don't know if something happened there and they expected to go faster. There really wasn't a lot of traffic. There was a little bit of traffic in the city, but there wasn't a ton of traffic, and it was moving moving at a good pace, 15, 20 miles an hour. It's not like we were stopped. And that was probably the first hour and a half that we were in the city.
Yeah, it took a while to get out of the city.
Okay.
Yeah. And here we drive, and not everybody would agree with this, but we actually drive in a very orderly fashion. And even in cities, there's still there is a flow. And the interesting thing, I think, by the end of the trip, as I was watching it, there's very much a flow there too. But you got to be in the know to go with the flow, because, and how do they know? It's how they function. It's their culture. And one interesting thing, now all of us got to drive because a U.S. License is recognized there.
No kidding. Okay.
And theirs is recognized here also.
Interesting.
And so, we found that interesting. So we got to drive and experience a little bit of it. I didn't drive in the city. I drove on a more of a backcountry road. So
is that left side of the road, right side of the road?
it's right side of the road.
Okay.
Until you get to a pothole, and then you go around over to the left-hand side of the road,
Right.
and then
Sure.
you come back over, and you might be going over there at the same time somebody else is coming over in your side of the road to get around that pothole, and then you may meet there and have to kind of maneuver a little bit. But literally, I mean, yeah, it was tough. I'm sure Brian will share, but he gets motion sickness, so he a couple times he stopped and fed the animals on the side of the road.
Sounds like I would be like pretty often.
Yeah.
Okay.
I fortunately I don't get motion sickness, so I was very thankful for that.
Yeah. Once you get to your destination, is it a town? Is it a city? Is it a village?
So I would say it's a city. It's Watertown, which is around 40,000. This year was 60,000. So
Okay.
So
Wow.
kind of like that, or maybe Rome where you worked.
Yep.
But yeah, there's no high rises there. It's all spread out all over. It's all on one level. And anytime we went into the city from where we were staying, which is just on the outskirts of it, very congested, and you're not traveling very fast, and horns are blowing, and we learned that apparently people use their horns for the whole time.
Yeah,
Right.
you use
Did
the
he-
horns.
It's communication.
You
It's
use the
communication.
horns to tell people that you're coming into an intersection. Use horns to tell somebody that you're passing. Use horns to tell the person walking in the road that you're about to get hit if you keep walking.
Yeah.
Yeah, here, if somebody's using a horn, a lot of times there's, they're either waving to their friend on the side of the road, or by their house, or it's road rage. Where
Yeah.
there, you quickly realize, no, this is just common courtesy. Beep beep, hey, we're coming around because we're 6 wide here. Your motorcycle, your little whatever it was, not rickshaw, but kind of like that.
Tap tap.
And we call it a tap tap, which is a
little
Haiti.
mopeds.
And well, those were.
3-wheelers.
Those were there was 3-wheelers where like a motorcycle front end with a guy sitting on
okay.
and then in the back was 2 or 3 people could sit back in there, 2 Americans or 12 Africans maybe. I don't know.
They pile them right in.
And also on the road was tractors with a dump trailer type thing behind them, a single axle dual wheel. They're going out to the fields, but they're carrying 12, 13 people,
Up on top of a pile of
Yeah.
corn or
Because
whatever.
I'm going that way. Who needs a ride?
Yep. And or a truck carrying bags of charcoal that they've made. The truck is 12 feet, 8 to 12 feet in width at the bottom, but the top of the load is about 15, 16 feet. It comes up, it's stacked like this. Yeah, it's not.
Got to make efficiency of your
It's efficiency.
point A to point B.
It's efficiency, yeah, for sure.
Was there a moment, and I'll give this one to Corwin, was there a moment on the trip when you first arrived when you said, this is exactly why we're here?
I think that there were several opportunities to see God move. The reason we were there was to be ambassadors for Jesus. And I would say it's kind of twofold. The first thing is like my obedience to what the Spirit is speaking, and the whole reason that I invested my time, effort, energy, money to go was to say, Lord, like I want to be your servant, use me. So there's that piece of it that as soon as we arrived, I felt the pleasure of the Lord. Just saying, like, you've sacrificed to be here and I'm with you. So I would say that's the first piece of it. But as far as a moment, the first night that we were able to go and minister, we were sitting, we called it kind of like an open air crusade. And we were sitting, and it was basically a church service outside. And we were in this little building that had open walls, and it was covered, but it was still very much outside. And I was sitting beside Dad and beside Ezra, and Brian was the first one that got up to share. And the Lord spoke to me before Brian started sharing, and I felt very strongly like the Lord wanted us to convey that our blood is the same blood that's running through everybody else's veins, that we're all the same, that the outside of our skin doesn't really matter, and that it's the inside that matters, and the fact that, we all look the same on the inside. And Brian got up, and after the Lord had shared this revelation with me, that's what he dropped in my heart. Brian got up and shared the exact same thing. And so for me, in that moment, that was the Lord confirming, like, I have gone with you, and I'm speaking to your group to go and minister to these people. And that was the moment where it's like, oh my gosh, okay, God, you're here. You're here in power, and this is going to be fantastic. That was probably the first, like, other than the previous stuff that I said, which is just the pleasure of the Lord and the joy being with us. That was the first moment where it's like, okay, this is awesome. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did a typical day look like for you guys when you were there?
So we stayed in a motel, which was different from what I had experienced before, because wherever I would go, we'd be in somebody's home. So we stayed in a motel. We had breakfast provided at the motel in the beginning of the day, and then our host or there was a driver that was taking us. They would come and kind of chart the course. He'd say, all right, tomorrow we're going to do this, this day, that day. And so it would be going, we went to, I think 3 different times we went to schools. And then there'd be like a special church service. This was the middle of the week, but because we were there, they had stuff arranged. We would go there and preach, share, whatever. The one day was a group of pastors from out of the area that had traveled, and they had some other stuff they were doing together. But I think specifically they were coming there to hear us share, and so yeah, it wasn't jam-packed full. We had a fair amount of downtime. A lot of times we would go minister, come back, and depending on the timing, we would go to our host's home where he lived, and his wife would have prepared a dinner. His wife, and she usually had 3 other people working with her, helping to prepare. And So a little different. That part of it was a little bit different because we would eat with our host, but there wasn't a family there. They're older anyway. Their children are all out of the home, but the one son was involved in quite a bit of what we did as far as ministry. But so yeah, it was more, and it was probably the if there was any culture shock for me, I wouldn't call it that, but it was when you're so well being cared for by people who have so little, that's hard. It's just hard because you're like, yeah, I want them at the table too. And even though we're not necessarily understand, they do speak a fair amount of English, but whether we understand that language or not, to be able to, a lot's communicated by your smile and your actions towards them. So, and then usually we were done. Our evenings were, I don't know, early evening generally. So it wasn't. I've been on missions trips where it was go 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 all day long, and by the end of the trip you were exhausted. This one here wasn't. It wasn't. It was more of a discovery for because Christian Community Center and others are ministering there, just to kind of see what is get a taste for some of the different ministries that are there.
Sometimes sometimes on mission trips you can get run ragged, which I've definitely had both, where it's a little bit more laid back, and then I've had other ones where you go to bed at the end of the day at like 11 o'clock and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to sleep. This was definitely on the more laid back side, which I'm young and full of drive, so I was like, jeepers, who else can we minister to? Let's get after this. I very quickly realized that I needed to change my expectations. Like within the first day or two, the first day you expect, okay, they're going to let us rest a little bit and we'll have some downtime because we just traveled 24 hours. I think I was up a total of like 38 hours. And so I was like, yeah, a full night of sleep is nice, and then kind of a slow day the next day is nice. But then by like the second or third day, I was like, okay, I'm ready to get after it. And then when I looked at the schedule and I saw what we were going to be doing, I was like, okay, this is going to be more like laid back than what I was expecting. And I just shifted the expectations really quickly, which was super nice to be able to go with our pastor and good friends and with my dad. It was super nice because a lot of the nights we were able to come back to the hotel. We were back to the hotel 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we stayed up fairly late several nights, just talking about the Lord, talking about scripture, talking about our families, talking about what we had seen that day, debriefing a lot, which usually, like if you're on a really fun trip and it's 11:30 at night, you still want to debrief, so you end up doing it till 2 a.m.
Right.
Versus if you go to bed at 8:39 or you go back to the hotel, you debrief till 11:30, 12, and then you get a bit more sleep. So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. You alluded to this a little bit before, Curt, about being able to see Corwin in a different atmosphere, kind of see different parts of him coming out in a different environment. So this is going to be a question posed to both of you about each other. But I'll start with Curt. What was something that you saw in that experience on the mission about Corwin that maybe surprised you or that was fun to see? Go ahead.
Yeah, not surprised, but I got to see my younger self. And I love people. I want to engage. I want to encounter their culture, but also one of my favorite words for God is Emmanuel, which is God with us. And that to me is the heart of wherever I go, whether it's there or whether it's here going to the grocery store. I am carrying the presence of God, so I get to be Emmanuel, and so one of the first things was they wanted us to help put together a trampoline for a school, and it had been there for quite a while and in a box. And so, I don't know, for whatever reason, they thought we would be able to figure that out.
Yeah.
So I was trying to read directions, and everybody else was trying to just put it together. And that was interesting. But at one point, it was a small trampoline, and so in an enclosed area to protect it from, whomever might be coming by. Corwin quickly went outside with all the kids who were standing around watching this, and he just started engaging in them. And just to watch him love on them and immediately get their focus and their attention, and teaching them to sing a song, and it's the kind of stuff that I've done before, and your Uncle Matt, who I went to Ukraine with, watching him interact with kids and that same kind of thing. And there's one scripture that Jesus said when people were trying to bring children to him for blessing, and the disciples were trying to shove them aside, and Jesus was like, "Hey, you let the children come to me, for such is the kingdom of God." So just to watch that and see him to be able to preach and come up, it's to speak with an interpreter is a whole nother level yet, rather than being able to just say what comes to your mind. To have to parse that out with an interpreter, it's a learning. And but yeah, that was I enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun to watch him function in that.
I would say for me, the first thing that comes up is we were ministering one night, and the prophetic is something that I love, and that's a gift that God has given Dad that I love to watch. I very much enjoy being a part of it and being a part of that ministry. And you can have people that maybe aren't confident in their gift or aren't willing to step out. And that's one thing that I love about you, Dad, is that you are willing to step out in the prophetic and share. And there was one specific gentleman that right away that the Lord had highlighted to Dad, and he was in all white, and I think you went over and you ministered to him, and it was very clear that in power and authority you were operating in the prophetic gifting that the Lord has given you. And the thing that makes me think of is Jesus said, greater things that you will do than I've even done. And he also said, you have the ability to do all the things that I've done. And I think for me, even in my own doubt sometimes, I doubt my ability and even God's ability to work through people. But then to see, my Father have the gifting and the authority to believe that, no, God speaks through me, and he just steps out, and you can test words. And I think we did that a little bit. And I'm always one that wants to test a word after it's given, and listening to the way that he gave the word and gave the directive of that word. The gentleman, it was very clearly from the Lord, and it had done something inside of him that drew him and encouraged him and put him in a place where he was able to get right with the Lord. And so that was super good. There was lots of other stuff where Dad preached a few times, and he shared on hearing God's voice. I love that teaching, and was just so much fun to listen and see and hear the wisdom that is there. It's like, wait a minute, I should be writing this down for me. There's nuggets here I could be receiving from this, so that was super fun.
Tell me about the people that you were ministering to, the people that you were in communion with, that you were talking with all the time and sowing into. What was the response like, and what is the general atmosphere when you're in a group like that?
Yeah. I would say very similar to ministering to groups here, but definitely definitely was a receptiveness, and I experience it from the other way here. If there's somebody visiting, and especially because of the prophetic, they don't know you, so they minister sometimes directly to you and things that you're like, yeah, that has to be from God because they don't know nothing about me, that's it. Just opens your heart up because you know that God is working through. To watch them and interact with them, to being receptive, but also then to, at the end, everybody wanting to come and shake your hand, speak, just a word of blessing or whatever. That was interesting to watch, and we're a little more here. I think we're a little more, I don't want to say standoffish, but a lot of times
maybe
reserved. More reserved, and we're there from oldest to youngest, came up and they wanted to shake every one of our hands and engage in that way. So that was cool.
Yeah, I would call it unashamedly. I can't say that word.
Unashamedly
like a child, even the older, even the adults. And that's cool to see in adults, where they're willing to come to a humble place where it's like, man, just shaking your hand is a blessing for me. But
not, I'm sorry, interrupting, but I got to say this. I'm going to shake Corwin's hand in how we shake hands, and then I'm going to shake his hand again in the way that they shake hands. And I finally questioned that. So we're just pretty much very straightforward. They come with a little bow and another hand here. And I was like,
on the forearm, on their own forearm.
Okay. And I'm like, all right, I don't know who I asked, but finally somebody, I was like, okay, what's going on here? What's with this?
Kenneth, you asked.
And
Kenneth.
Did I ask Kenneth? Okay, Kenneth, who was our host's son, and he was a lot of fun. He was enjoyable to interact with. He said they'll shake hands, but they're showing great respect when they do that. And so I was like, okay, I'm African.
Yeah, I'm just going to adopt that.
Back at you.
It's a cultural thing that's just a kind of a way of expressing respect and honor.
Yeah.
And, really cool.
Yeah, it's neat. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to talk about the meeting times and the different cultural things. As far as how the meeting is laid out, it's very much the same as how a church service would be here, except for it's extended about 4 extra hours. So like a normal church service here, I would think if you take probably the bigger swath of churches, you're in and out in between 45 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. That'd be a pretty safe bet, I think. And there, you're 3 hours kind of almost minimum, because I asked, what does your service times look like? It's an hour for prayer, an hour for worship, and an hour for teaching. And then when we were there, it was extended even longer than that. And nobody
flinches.
Nope. Nobody wanted to get up and leave. They would have all, I think they probably would have all stayed there all day long if we had continued to worship or keep meeting. That's something that was definitely different, is their concept of time is very different than ours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
As far as the receptiveness, I felt like everyone was receptive to receiving. It didn't matter if it was one of the little kids or if it was an old man. Everybody wanted the blessing of what the Lord had for them. And I think that shows that they have a really good concept that the Lord works through people, and that they all know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. The Lord, if you're allowing him to operate through you, that's good enough for them. Mm-hmm. And they wanted to receive whatever the Lord had for them. That was cool.
One thing that was very important to me, always has been, is, again, back to the Jesus saying, let the little children come. It doesn't matter where you are, if it's here, if it's Africa, Ukraine, or wherever. people need to understand that they are valued, and they need that strongly communicated, because most of our society, even though we have language like, your truth, my truth, everybody, everybody's okay and all that kind of stuff, right? But what they don't understand is they are valued by their Father in heaven. And one of the ways that I communicate that with, very purposefully, with not just with adults, but very specifically with little children, because somewhat in that culture there, they have children and they're there and they're a part of it, but the value seen that they're not always valued the way I would like to see them valued. And so for the little children, they would come to shake hands, and I would grip it a little bit, and I would pull them in, and I looked them right in the eye. And if I was saying, God bless you, or, whatever, but I was making sure that they knew that I wasn't just passing them over for the next handshake. I was pulling them in, because I'm there, I'm representing Jesus, and I know that's what he'd be doing, and that was that. Like when you went out and played the games with the kids, that you could just see they're just eating that up, because they're like, oh, okay.
They're hungry for it.
They're hungry for it.
Aren't we all? Like, this is something that Western culture, doesn't matter where you are, everybody is starving for this thing.
Yep.
And it's so cool to see a humble heart coming and looking for something like that, and then for it to be met with God's hand working through somebody is pretty special to see. Mm-hmm. A lot of times with missions, the sell or the idea is like, we're going to minister to other people. A lot of times what happens is people come back and they're like, I feel like I was ministered to. I got the most out of this out of anybody. Did that happen in this mission? And if so, what can you share about that?
I think the biggest impact for me was coming home. I joked with Hannah afterwards. I said, I'm never doing that again. I won't go somewhere without you. Whew. And, man, before I was married and I did missions, I didn't think about anybody back home. I just...
You didn't miss me?
Not even my parents. Like, no, I just didn't.
Sure.
And, being able to go and sacrifice precious time with my own family. I didn't ask for God to give me a renewed vigor. Whew, my goodness. I didn't ask him to give me a renewed vigor or love. And I don't even feel like my love is empty or was dry in any way, shape, or form when I left. But, man, when I got home, I was just like, I don't ever want to go somewhere without you again. And I was glad to see the kids and wanted to be with them, and I love my kids. But specifically, Hannah, I was just like, if I go on another mission trip, baby, you're going with me, because I'm not going by myself again. It's not going to happen. And I think that just ministered to my heart the most, that 15 years of marriage. And if you put the work in with your family and with your wife, you can actually grow deeper in love the longer you're married. And I've heard people talk about that different times, that, the longer you've been married, the more you love each other. And you don't see that a lot in practicality. And I would say that we've grown deeper in love, but the passion, like being gone for 11, 12 days, whatever it ended up being, my goodness, the passion of being able to be together. And still to this day, like Hannah and I love to be with each other. We love to be around each other. That's how we've always been. We very much enjoy each other's company. But like going away and then coming back, that raised it another notch. And so I think that honestly, the willingness and the obedience, the Lord just ministered to me in the fact that I have sown well into my relationship with my wife, and to have the blessing and joy to spend even more time with her. Like that was a big blessing. Yeah.
It was very nice to have looked at things ahead and said, we're gonna purchase an international plan, so that, because cell phones are everywhere. Blew my mind way before I had cell phones when I went to Ukraine, and there was people walking around with these big cell phones with big antennas. Not everybody, not the majority, but there was people riding in a cart with a horse drawn, talking on their cell phones way back. And so it's just that blows my mind. You have a mud hut, but you got the internet. I don't get it. I don't get it. It makes no sense. But anyway, so I'm glad we did that, because I processed the some of the difficulties of being there. Processed that with my wife. I don't know. She said she took, I don't know how many pages of notes. She wrote down the things that I was talking about, but I would talk to her hour and a half before I went to bed, and sometimes, might wake up in the middle of the night, and it's 6 hours. Let's see, we were ahead 6 hours. And so, she's still up. And so I'd get on and talk with her again for an hour and a half. So that was, I enjoyed that. That was nice, and nice to have her, to bounce off of. And, I would enjoy having her along on missions trip, and I would not enjoy having her along on missions trip because she doesn't travel well. She's not big into adventure, and to put her through the especially the travel on the ground, she does get motion sickness, and that would have been really hard and would have been tough on her coming out of that. So different for me. Yeah, I'd like to have her there, and we're partners in ministry. We worked well together, and we see a lot of the same things the same way, and so that's always nice. But yeah, I wouldn't want her to go through the same difficult parts of it. But to be able to call back home and at any point, or I could text her along the way, and she likes that. She likes to be kept in the know. More glad to stay home, but to know what's going on, because I've been, before we had the cell phones, and didn't communicate for 5, 6, 7 days at a time, and so that was difficult. And when I did call her one time, this was in Ukraine, called her and got off the phone, and I saw the guy over there, calculating, and he came right away, and he said that was $60. That
What year was this?
That would have been in the 90s.
Okay,
$60. Which I knew we're going to pay for whatever. We need to, but yeah, it was, I don't know, I don't remember the amount of time, but not not over an hour by any means. So yeah, but yeah, definitely that I enjoyed that. It was definitely ministered to me to be able to have that time and communicate and support processing some difficult things and saying, this is what I'm going through, and she would listen and give some counsel and some support. So that was good.
Is there anything that stands out to you now that you've been back that your mind kind of keeps going back to from your time in Africa?
One thing that's always interesting to me, it happens the same, is weather's different, culture's different, smells are different, all those things are different. We're all the same. We all have the same basic needs, and we have our physical needs. It's not just the American dream that we beat ourselves up trying to achieve a lot of times. It's the African dream. There's guys there that have nothing. And then there's the guy that's got a family of 4 riding on a single-cylinder motorcycle, and that's the family car, and they're driving, weaving in and out of people who have SUVs and people who have nicer vehicles than I'll probably ever own. They've spent more on it. So we're all the same. We need people, we need shelter, and what we call comfort and what other people call comfort, both accomplish the same things. It's obviously different. We truly live in opulence. We have our upper, super wealthy and all the way down, but the reality is our people who are struggling at the lowest levels are so much further than many people other places. But they're, Jesus said in Scripture, the poor you will have with you always. What he didn't say, but is true, it's there, is the rich you'll have with you always too. There you could just see there's people that there's the haves and the have-nots. It's there, and yeah, interesting to watch all that perspective. And yep.
I think for me, the thing that I keep coming back to, and the thing that hasn't really left my mind is the desire to encourage other people to go and experience being outside your comfort zone. Go and experience praying for the Lord to move on your heart and other people's hearts, and having the faith that he will, and then getting to see that he did, and the faith building experience that is. Placing your trust in the Lord, saying, my life is in your hands. I'm in another country where I don't know anybody. I don't speak the language. But I know that you're going to provide for me. My heart is to encourage and facilitate, I guess at the basic level, my own children, getting them in that environment, because I know that God will work on their hearts. But then on a broader, more like ministry-minded level, encouraging the people in my church to step out and making a place and making a way where I can, guide people into that opportunity to do missions so that they can receive the benefits of giving of themselves. So I would say that that's what has continued now, coming back, being in my mind. It's like, okay, how can I facilitate? How can I be an encourager to bring other people into this?
Is there anything that the experience taught you about yourself on an individual level that surprised you, other than the renewed vigor in your marriage and wanting to be home? Is there anything like on a personal level, spiritual level, that this experience taught you about yourself?
I don't know if there was a specific thing that taught me. I think that there were a lot of opportunities for me to say my perspective's not necessarily the right one or the only one or the best one. Right. There was a lot of opportunities where the Lord just said, keep your mouth shut and listen. And my initial reaction to a situation, or my initial reaction to what I was hearing or seeing or feeling, it was clear that I needed to not insert anything for a little while. And then at the end of some time thinking, contemplating, whatever, I realized that, okay, my initial reaction to this, if I had gone this direction, wouldn't have been correct. And so not to make quick decisions on my initial reaction to different things. And I think that just being in a different environment, you see a lot of things outside the norm, and being a strong leadership type that I am, like, I could very quickly insert my ideas or opinions or thoughts into a situation where, God was just saying, don't do that. Just listen and allow my spirit to speak, and then hop on the train that I'm on rather than hopping on your own train. So I would say that just perspective, allowing my perspective to slow down enough for me to not react in my perspective, but allow God's perspective to come in.
It's not a new thing for me, but just I have opinions, and yeah, we all do, and the further I go and the more I'm involved in things, and realize that it's not wrong to have opinions. It's just not always right to give opinions, and to see that again, and it was good. It was good to be able to process ahead of time, because I know that I can get in situations, and as a leader, I am definitely a natural born leader. As a kid, I used to get frustrated with myself, wondering why I couldn't keep my mouth shut and why I had to give everybody direction. So now it's like, I'm a leader, but I don't have to always lead just because I see a good way of doing whatever. To exercise that again, and it's a good feeling, actually, that I don't have to be exercising, how I'm made, what I am, and to watch other people step into things, and it's good.
It's a real positive core tenet of leadership, actually, is to be able to step back and let something else flow and be in real time, giving space for other people to develop is not what a lot of people think of when they think of leadership. It's like, I have to step in and be the person who brings all the answers to all the questions. I have to be the person that operates this entire thing. But you don't really, in a lot of those situations, and I've been under those in work and different places, and everybody has been, to where it really just dries up all the potential for everybody around you. Mm-hmm. And I think that most people who are naturally born leaders, like all three of us are, that's a struggle to kind of give rope. Go ahead, go and figure it out and grow on your own, and you have to be okay with that. Yeah. Let me know if you need me. Yeah. So I can understand that. I totally relate to that. We talked a little bit about the courage of stepping outside of your comfort zone and going and doing things that are hard and cost time and money and effort, and just the willingness to do something you don't want to do. In our culture, we don't emphasize that very much. We don't have the service mindset. We have the me mindset, and the how can I do what I want to do, and how can I do what's going to be best just for me. For anybody who's thinking about missions, and you touched on this a little bit already, Corwin, you actually jumped ahead of my question. You're not allowed to do that. What would you say to somebody who has that feeling that they would like to do something but something's holding them back?
Yeah.
Nike, just do it.
Just do it. just do it. One of the things that holds people back is money. And my wife asked me a question in the middle of the process of going on this trip. She was like, "So we're not going to raise any money. We're just going to use our own money." I was like, "Yeah, I didn't even think about raising money." Not the case when I first went. Literally didn't have the $10 or $11 to have my passport photo taken. Like, wrote a check without money to cover it, and we didn't do that kind of stuff, but felt like, yep, this is what you're supposed to do. And I share this because I would, if somebody thinks, well, I don't think I can afford it. No, you can't, but Jesus can. And if it's in your heart to go, the money doesn't mean a thing, because he will pay the bill. Mm-hmm. I wrote a check to cover my passport picture, knowing the money wasn't there to cover it, trusting that that's what he wanted me to do, because I felt that. Literally 10 minutes down the road, went to our church to get together with a group that was going on this trip. Not this one, but way back. We're going to go and talk about what's coming up and what to expect on the trip. Walked in, and somebody walked over and said, "Lord told me to pay for your passport picture today." If you've never gone and you've never experienced that kind of thing, if for only that reason, do it. Don't think about it. Just do it, because you will have your socks blessed off. So bring extra socks. You might need them. But no, it's
yeah.
Like, this was fun this time because I had cash. I took extra cash. Money was not an issue. And a little part of me, just a little part of me, felt a little bit bad because I wasn't going to see what I had seen when I had no money to go, or when I had to get up with this guy and his brother at 5 a.m. for 11 different Saturdays, and I would wake them up at 5 o'clock, and I'd say, "It's time to get up because we're going to go bless Pastor Peter." This was another Pastor Peter in Ukraine, and we're going to get up and cook chickens all day. And it was hard. They did not want to get out of bed. I didn't want to get out of bed. But if you're going to take a family of 7, it was 2001, 2002, something like that. It was going to cost us over $7,000 to go, of which we didn't really have it, and so we worked and raised the money. But there's something in that too, because the satisfaction of, going after it and making it happen and all of that. But yeah, if you have it, if you have that tug, you hear this or somebody else talk about missions, and you've got that tug inside of you, that's the Lord. Just follow it. Follow it, because you're going to go on an adventure with him, and you're going to see things and experience things that you're not going to experience here. Not the same.
Mm-hmm. All right, Corwin. Somebody's on the doorstep thinking, I got to go.
Oh, my goodness.
But
yeah.
I can't do it.
I could go 2 directions. I could go the non-spiritual direction, or I could go the spiritual direction, or maybe I should go both.
You should go both.
Okay, so the spiritual direction is, I preached a couple weeks ago on the laws of reaping and sowing. And when you sow into the kingdom, the Bible actually says that you will reap a harvest up to 100-fold. So if you don't have the money, that doesn't matter. God will provide it. If you don't have the time, that doesn't matter. God will provide it. If you don't have the understanding, doesn't matter. God will provide it because it's all his anyways. And when you take what God has given you and you sow it, he promises to allow you to reap a harvest that's 100-fold. And that doesn't always mean financially or dollar-wise, but the things that you will reap far outweigh what you're going to sow. That would be the spiritual side, is there's blessing in it for you. The non-spiritual side is if you haven't seen the world, you haven't seen other places, you haven't seen other things, your perspective, it's very small. What you understand is very small. And if you want to be a well-rounded person, you need to go to other places in the world. You need to see how other cultures live. You need to see and understand how other people operate. And it opens your eyes to, I would say, not even spiritually, but it opens your eyes to being thankful for what you have. And sometimes the biggest killer of joy is comparing, to something that somebody else has. And it's really easy to compare to your neighbor down the street and to your friend and, oh, I don't have what they have. Go over to Africa and compare yourself to a middle-class farmer who is making $10 a day, American dollars, enough to buy a couple loaves of bread one day. Like, if you want a perspective shift, this will give you a perspective shift. If you're feeling it in your heart, you should go do it. Absolutely. You can get in touch with us. Leave a comment on Brock's page. And if you want to go on a missions trip, we will get you in touch with a missions agency. And there's several of people. Nicolina would be a great one. Go to CCC if you're in this area. Talk to Brian, and he would happily help you. Or we could find another missions for you to go on. So you have no excuses.
I want to say something to dads out there. This is talk about something that, as a father, that feels good. I had a goal for my children. We homeschooled, and one of the goals that I wanted before they left my home was I wanted them to do at least one short-term mission, to get on foreign soil and to get nothing, not about the spiritual side of it as much as I wanted them to see that we live in opulence, we live in privilege, we have great responsibility towards the rest of the world in many, many ways. And yes, there are other places that have it really good also. And I hope those dads there are thinking the same way. But get your kids, especially to a third world country, and to go through the struggle of the travel just to get there. To me, that's the being there is like, okay, this is fine, because I'm not expecting a whole lot from the people there. So whatever happens is great. It's good, and I can roll with it. And I'm going to go back home to my nice, cozy house and all of that. So I can, the adventure part says I can endure that. Flying on an airplane, it's fun the first couple times, and that quickly wears away. Because flying on airplanes, and especially if I'm over 6 feet, and it's different. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable, and the longer the flight is, just sitting there, that's tough. I'd rather be in the car bouncing around their terrible infrastructure, and but the airplane's it's just tough, and the fear that comes with flying. I don't care how many times you've flown, that if the engines go off up here, everybody's going down. That is just a fact, and I'll be comfortable thinking I'm okay, and all of a sudden there's some serious pockets of air, and
wait, am I okay?
Suddenly we learn to pray, really good, but to the dads, go with them yourself if you haven't gone, or get them someplace that where they can go and experience it. Especially go with them, because you can help them process what they're seeing, experiencing, tasting, whatever it is. It's because it's different wherever you go. But
it's also an opportunity to walk out what we quote unquote preach, right? It's a good option to model behavior or how you interact with people. I love, you both just touched on it in two different ways, but knowing what it looks like to be well-rounded. We talk about that with our kids. Like, we want our kids to be well-rounded and have perspective and have empathy and have a heart for people, but also to know that by design, we're where we are, and God's decision could have put us in a less fortunate area.
Been anywhere.
Right. And just to have that awareness to the world situations, you can't get through a screen the same way as if you're there. You just don't. You don't get the smell. You don't get the sounds. And so I think there's so many different valuable ways to go with that in a trip like this, that I think that's great advice.
What you don't, if like Corwin's going to be putting out a video, what you're not going to see on there is dust from the Sahara that is traveling across the country of Ghana on its way to the sea, and it's just there. And at the same time, it's the dry, coming towards the end of the dry season, and so everybody everywhere is burning all the dried up vegetation, and so everywhere you go, you smell smoke, and it's just there. And that's, you know, it's you're going to deal with it, you know, at the end of the week or whatever it was of being there, the car is just laden in dust, and they're cleaning the dust out of the car and off the outside of the car, cleaning things up, and just that feel you don't get looking through a screen.
All right, Corwin, when is that video going to be done?
If I say it on here, I'm committed enough to have to make it happen. So
I'll hold you to it.
Ezra texted me and was like, "Bro, we got to get this video out." And I was like, oh, "Okay, I'm gonna set aside some time. So I'm gonna carve out some time this weekend, and the video will be out. When is this podcast gonna come out?
Whenever your video's coming out.
Okay, well,
maybe a little bit after. Maybe I can stitch and cut.
Okay, I will work on the video during Sabbath on Saturday, and I will get the video done by Monday.
Okay.
So Sabbath, we shut our phones off. So my phone will have to be on airplane mode in order for me to have a true Sabbath, because we shut them off. We don't answer phone calls or texts or anything. We focus on each other. So
good.
I'm going to have to bring the kids into that editing.
Monday, March 16th.
Yep.
At some point, that should be out. I'm really looking forward to looking at it.
I will try and put it out Sunday afternoon after church.
Okay. All right. That is going to be on the Adventures with the Christmans page.
That's what's up.
Okay, and that will be linked in this episode as well. And thank you guys for coming.
Yeah, dude.
What a great experience. I'm glad I got to steal you guys away.
That's right.
From your families, even though Corwin apparently doesn't like to stay away from his wife very long right now.
She's actually outside the door waiting. No, not really.
I appreciate you guys coming on and talking about your experience, because as soon as you guys got back, I was like, oh, man, I would love to hear all about that. And just the way that life is, it's hard to find the time to just kind of sit down. All right, Corwin, tell me in detail what happened. How was it? Yeah. How it impacted you? How it impacted others? And same with you, Curt. Like, it just makes it tough. Busy lives, but it's okay.
Because we got it done.
You got it done.
We did it. Now it'll be in history forever.
That's right. Yep. And I'm going to plug for the next time we have the African Missionary Experience with your other half basically from the trip. So that'll be hopefully Brian and Ezra will come on and kind of give a little bit different angle of what they went through and how they grew. And those are stuff, that's the kind of stuff I'm really interested in. And I think it's really good.
Love it.
But thank you both. What a pleasure. So, all right, folks, that's it.
That's it.
Catch you on the next one.
We're out.
See ya.